welcome to the Born for Greatness podcast. I have a very special guest today, KAYR from KJ Consulting. KAYR, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, first of all, I'm honored and super excited to have the opportunity to be on your platform. I just think that this is going to be a great show today. So I hope everyone's tuning in and just ready to learn a lot and have fun.
Absolutely. So for those who don't know you, can you give me a brief background?
Yes. So I grew up in Philadelphia in a single parent household with 6 siblings. My mother raised us and we moved from place to place. We were homeless at one point. We had food insecurity, housing insecurity. I went from being a poor little kid to working my butt off and got a scholarship. Went off to college, worked on Wall Street, and then I bought 1 rental unit in 2009. I got to 9 rental units by 2018, and by 2019, I got to 35. In 2020, I got to 105 units. I have my own property management business, landscaping business, and I retired from my 9-to-5 in August of 2020. And so that's like my story in a nutshell.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. And you told that very quickly. That is great. So I have so many questions, but let's start with what made you decide to buy your first rental?
So when I was growing up, I noticed that my mother had good intentions and a good heart, and she struggled with finances. So we kept having to move from place to place. And I also noticed that my local church was always raising money and struggled with finances. So when I was like 13, 14, I wanted to figure out what was missing from my community and my experience. And I started to read books about wealth management, wealth creation, and I learned about real estate. And I used to look around and say, look, someone's going to have to replace the crack kids or the drug dealers, the business people in my community, the bus drivers and the teachers. And I said, and the homeless people, I said, I want to replace the landlord, because the landlord was able to tell us when to move in and when to move out. And so I said, that's what I'm going to focus on. And that's why I decided to buy my first rental property, because I wanted to be in a position of power and own assets.
Yeah, that's great. So if somebody who doesn't have experience in it, like you didn't when you first started, what is your suggestion to them? How can they get started?
So what I always tell people is that when you're first getting started in the business, like I did, it took me 9 years to get to my 9 units. And people would say, why did you go so slow? You're not moving fast enough. One thing is that you have to run your own race. Each individual is unique. So don't feel compelled that you have to keep up with the Joneses or anyone else. So the first thing I would say is take an assessment of your current situation. What is your credit score? What is your income? How long have you been working at that job? Because the lender, what they're focused on when you buy a property and your personal name, 1 to 4 units, whether you have it, you live in a property or you just use it as a rental. What their focus is on is the quality of the borrower. So if you are new to it in your 20s like I was, you want to first get your income together. How long have you been at the job? How much money do you make? The next thing they're going to focus on is your credit profile and your credit score. What type of debt do you have? Do you pay your bills on time? And the third thing they're focused on is your debt to income ratio, which is what is your monthly expenses to your income? What is that percentage? Ideally, I like for that to be below 40%. I would tell you, understand those 3 elements, and then I would say buy a 1 to 4 unit, which you have a 1-family house, then you have a duplex, which is 2 families living in 1 house, or a triplex or a 4-plex, and buy it in your personal name. And the reason why you buy it in your personal name is because there are various programs. If you're a veteran, you can put 0% down. If you are a doctor or a lawyer, you can put 0% down. If you have a weak credit score, a low credit score, you could do an FHA loan and put 3.5% down. If your credit score is really low, you could even put 10% down for FHA loan and have a 500 credit score. So the reason I like that versus an LLC is because one, you have flexibility in terms of the down payment, the money you need up front. You also can qualify for home buyer programs. Like Wells Fargo's had one, Bank of America, where they give you 7,000, 15,000. Each state has first-time home buyer programs, and these you can take advantage of this for house hacking, where you live in one unit and rent the other one out. The other thing that is great is that you also can put 15% down for a rental unit that you don't even live in. That is a single family. They have all these different programs. Also, your insurance premium will be lower. Also, you will be able to get a 30-year fixed mortgage, and you'll also get a lower interest rate. If you were to do it in the LLC, you have to put 20% down. You also will get like more likely like a 5-year fix, which means it's going to have a balloon in 5 years, and it's going to be based on 20-year amortization. Your insurance premium is higher. You actually have to pay, depending on what state, they have an annual fee for LLC. You have to pay your taxes. You have to pay your tax accountant twice for your personal taxes in the LLC filing. So I really encourage people, if you have no experience or you have very little money and you're just getting started, go the route I just suggested. Get 1 to 4 units in your personal name so you can take advantage of all these benefits I just outlined.
That's really interesting, because I personally wouldn't have thought of that. You know, everybody always says, you know, do an LLC or a corp to protect yourself.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't want to interject, but the other thing they say is KR. I can't protect myself with an LLC. I say when it's raining outside and I look out the window, I don't only put my raincoat on, I put my umbrella. I put up my umbrella. So what you're going to do is get the regular insurance for the house, let's say for 150,000, 200,000. Then you're going to actually get an umbrella policy, which will be like for $1 million, and you only have to pay an extra $50 to $75 per month. And that can give your other shield. Your insurance policies is what protects you. Your LLC, that is just secondary. So I will advise people, because they're miseducating people out here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would free up. I know a lot of people who feel like they don't know enough about an LLC or a corp, don't know how to get started, don't want to invest in that. They feel like that's an extra expense that they don't want to attribute to right now. So that's really great advice, and not something, like you said, that's not something that you really ever hear of. So that's awesome advice. That's very great. Now,
and people find it very controversial. They'll say, KR, you're messing up our business. We need to sell LLC setup services. You talk too much.
That's awesome. But hey, you know, I mean, it's great. It's a good thing to know. And I know that you are on Instagram. You do lives like every week, right?
Yes. We do them on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
KJ
cool.
Consulting.
Yes, I know. I've joined one, and it was great, because one of the things that I love about you is you are so personable, and yet you're so successful. And I find a lot of times that very successful people have this, you know, this air about them, or they kind of don't care about the people who are getting started, because, you know, it could be for legitimate reasons. They're too busy, or they're, you know, that's just not what they're interested in. But you are so personable and so nice. And it is great to listen to you. And I feel like people can connect with you and learn a lot more, because they feel comfortable asking you questions they might feel silly asking somebody else.
No, I really appreciate that. And it's because I have 6 siblings. So therefore, I'm very comfortable. I'm the middle child. I'm able to communicate with people, whether they're older or younger. And I'm also comfortable meeting people where they are. So a lot of people, once they become successful, they expect you to be like them. They'll say, oh, I went to Ivy League school, so you should think like an Ivy League person. I'm a multimillionaire, so you should think like a multimillionaire, versus meeting people where they are. So like, I have an aunt who likes to clean, so that's what she does. I asked her if she wanted to invest. She said, no, I don't want to take that type of risk, but I do want some type of business. So I meet her where she is. My other brother, he likes landscaping, so I meet him where he is. I don't try to make people into the best version of KR. I want you to be the best version of yourself. And so that's why I'm trying to put your shoes on and figure out how you should think about things. Like when I first got started in 2009, you could only have like 4 units in your personal name. The government changed the rules to say we could have 10 rental mortgages in our personal name. The reason why they put a cap on it is because they didn't want rich people taking advantage of it. So right now I have 10 mortgages in my personal name, even though I have the LLCs, because the cash flows are higher. So therefore, what we need to do is understand how to take advantage of the rules so that we can be in a better position. So I always try to think like, what was I thinking when I was 20 something? What was I thinking when I was poor?
Right.
What was I thinking when a lot of people, they forget that. They don't like to put that thinking cap on that way. They're like, oh, I made it. I'm fancy. I'm just going to flex on you.
Yeah, it's very true. Would you say that anybody is capable of investing?
I think anybody is capable. It's something that can be taught. You don't have to be born an investor. So it's just like, I think everybody can be taught to be optimists. You don't have to, you're not born an optimist. I think it's something that you can definitely get, that can be taught, whether it's passed down. Just understand the fundamentals. It's like really understanding how to do the basic stuff. Like it's basically trying to teach you how to walk. And so my job as a coach is to help you change the way you think about things and help you figure out what processes and systems to put in place to increase the odds of you being successful.
Awesome. Now you have a program, right, that people can
Yes.
sign up for? Okay. Can you tell me a
Yes.
little bit about that?
So what we do is we've designed a program that I use since 2009, the framework. It is our boot camp. And so what we do is we teach you how to analyze various markets. So we'll teach you like how to analyze Harrisburg or Indiana. So what I want to do is a funnel approach. We talk with the top, the macro, and then we work our way down. Analyze the market, analyze the crime, the jobs, and all those different things. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to analyze an individual deal, a 1 to 4 unit. So you know exactly what to look for. You understand the key terms. What are the key terms? What is a bird? What is a cash out refi? What is a line of credit? What is a mortgage? You learn all those key terms in our class, and we go through case studies. And we also give you Excel templates that you can use that I've been using for years. And then we give you a 25 to 30 page ebook outlining everything we taught in the class and more. And then on top of that, because I don't believe in one night stands, I don't want you just to feel good and say, oh, KR made me feel good and just disappear. I want us to build a relationship. I want to invest in you so you don't embarrass me. So what we do is we give you access to my team around the country, real estate broker, real estate lawyers, also real estate agents, contractors, things of that nature, property management. What we're going to do is work with you for the next 12 months, and we do once a month check-in, and there's no additional cost. You get all this for one price of $349. So I'm not going to like play all these games. I say, if you don't have the money, listen to me for at least 349 days, save $1, and then sign up. There's no pressure. I'm already rich, but I would love to have more money so I can support my team.
That's fantastic. Okay. So what would you say to somebody who's not sure about the real estate market and like with the current economic state? Would you still encourage someone to look into buying properties and investing right now?
Yes. The reason why I have students who invest all around the country. So they're in Indiana, they're in New Mexico, they're in Ohio, they're in Maine, they're in Massachusetts, they're in Georgia, all over the country. The reason why you want to learn how to analyze different markets is so that you can be nimble. Where you currently live could be overpriced. Like when I lived in Philadelphia, when I started investing, I haven't lived there primarily in a long time, but I do own a house there, but I have an apartment in New York. So I can say I live in both. But
Yes,
besides the point is some people was like, wow, you get to live in 2 places, but that's just besides the point. You can own a house and have an apartment somewhere else. But let's get back to thinking like everyday people. So say for instance, when I was living in Philadelphia, it was so expensive when I used to invest there. So what I did is I said, I got to look elsewhere. And so in Philadelphia, I used to be able to buy a house for like $20,000. Those days are over. So what I did is, for instance, in 2020, I bought 5 houses on the same block in Harrisburg, 5 houses for $185,000. That's $37,000 per house. and I'm getting a 30% cash on cash return. I didn't do anything to the inside or the outside and already had a tenant. The older guy just wanted to retire. So the reason I mentioned that is to say, look, I first started in Philadelphia in 2009. Now I'm in about 10 different markets or 8 different markets besides just Philadelphia. I'm in the suburbs, I'm in the city, I'm in Harrisburg. My students invest around the country. So what my job is to teach you how to analyze different markets, because some markets will be more expensive in the United States and some will be a lot more reasonable and meet you where you are. So you might be, I can budget, if you bought something for 40,000 and you had to put 15% down, that's only $6,000. You probably can come up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's good to know. Now, what made you decide to leave your 9-to-5? Were you comfortable enough in what you were making in your investments that you felt it was time to move on?
Yep. And so what we also do is encourage you to figure out what is your number. So some people, they want to focus on becoming a multimillionaire. You don't or a millionaire. You don't necessarily need that to quit your 9-to-5. What I need you to do is figure out how much money you need to make you happy. So for instance, say for instance, you have 10 rental properties. You have 10 rental properties that each one gives you $400 a month. That means you get $4,000 a month after mortgage payments, after property management, after expenses. If you know for sure you can survive off of $48,000 a year, after everything is paid for, then you can quit your job, because now you have enough money that you feel comfortable. So you might say, I can live off of 40, I just want to have an extra 8,000 as a cushion. So what I always tell my students is figure out how much money you need. So my business partner, Jody, he still has his 9-to-5 because he hasn't hit the number that he feel comfortable retiring with. So it's all of us have our own personal needs. Some need 5,000, some need 10,000, some need 20,000. But you got to figure out, cash your bucket where you are and go from there.
That's great. So growing up, you said that you were poor and you didn't have a lot of money. Did you at a young age envision that you would be in this position where you are right now?
Well, what was fascinating was that we had moved with my stepdad for temporarily. My mother had said, you got to go live with your stepdad for a while. She needed a break. Sometimes mothers get stressed out. So we were with him, and as you know, you're a great mother. And we were with with my stepdad, my brother's real dad, biological dad. And he had set me down. He had said, look, and I was about 13 at the time, don't be an F up like me and some of your siblings and your mom, because we were struggling. So I had siblings who got pregnant at 14 or what have you. I had all these children, a brother that went to prison for attempted murder, all these different things running the streets. And he said, look, we haven't done exactly what it takes to be successful, but we know what it takes. So if you can figure out a way to apply what we tell you, you'll be really successful. So I started to think that way and just started to really believe that the sky is the limit. And if I really work extremely hard, I'll be surprised what I achieve. Now, did I expect to hit all these numbers at such a young age? No. I used to say when I was like 18, I said, I'm gonna retire from my 9-to-5 at 45. But I retired way earlier than that. I used to say, I'm gonna work really hard. I'm gonna get me some properties. I'm gonna be retired. And I can wake up whenever I want. Because I was like, these landlords, they own everything. I'm gonna be a landlord. I'm gonna have enough properties. I ain't gonna go to work. But I never imagined like I would get like a Market Watch interview with 300,000 views and stuff like that, or Korean broadcasting systems from Korea interviewing me, or a book chapter written about my life and all that stuff. So a lot of this stuff I did not envision. So I always tell people, if you do what's necessary, then do what's possible, you will find yourself doing the impossible. Just do what's necessary, then just do what's possible. And before you know it, you'll wake up and you're doing the impossible.
That's awesome. Was there anyone in particular growing up that you feel had a real influence on you and the way you were thinking business-wise?
No, not necessarily. No one around me was that business savvy. But what they did do, and I tell people I'm not self-made, I'm community-made. What they did do, the people around me, is that they poured into me what they had. So a lot of people prayed over me. A lot of people fed me good meals. A lot of people gave me a hug when I needed one. A lot of people told me that I was great and just met me where I was. They didn't try to judge me. They just said, look, just keep pushing. You can make something. You can do what we haven't done. And I think that really opened my eyes. I didn't necessarily grow up around someone who was like a business genius or something like that. I just had good people that believed in me, that struggled. And I was the one that decided I'm going to just take what they give me and I'm going to take it to the next level.
I love that, because I feel like, you know, as part of the coaching stuff that I do, I always say, like, I feel having a support system is so important. And you're gone. I'm gonna wait for you to come back.
Oh, that's my fault. I tried to decline this meeting, this call that was coming in.
No worries. Not a problem at all. Okay. So picking up, yeah, I feel like that's, you know, such an important thing, especially doing the coaching that I'm now doing. I feel like having a support system around you can sometimes supersede having someone who is, like, in your case, like a like-minded business person to kind of influence you. I think you're capable of anything when you believe in yourself and you have the right support around you. So that's really interesting to hear that that's what you felt really helped you get to where you are.
Yes,
so,
yes. It
yeah,
was,
I love it.
It was really interesting to grow up. And I remember we had like about 15 people, 14 people living in a studio apartment where we didn't have a stove, but we had a hot plate. We didn't have a bathroom door, but we had a sheet over the door. We only had one bed and all these people living in there. We had roaches and rats, but we also had love. So it was really interesting to have to like try to navigate a world that you're currently in and try to enter a new world that is so foreign.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love your story. Again, I cannot say enough good things. You are humble and you are gracious and kind. And I'm just so excited and so thankful that you came on my podcast. And can you just tell me why do you think, like I always say, people are born for greatness. What do you think that your purpose is here in life?
Well, I think that my purpose is to really help people understand that it's not about you, it's about the community. And so once we stop being so focused on self and more focused on community, I think we'll be able to transform each other's lives. And so that's why I spend a lot of time talking about transformational wealth, transformational health. And what I mean by transformational wealth is that you pretty much, instead of thinking generational wealth, where I do something and then in 40 years, maybe my children would have you, they'll be able to inherit a house and wealth. That's very focused on just self, your immediate family. Transformational wealth is more or less something that will be left to right or right to left, where you're focused on today. Where I convinced my brother to get a real estate license because I was buying apartment buildings. And he said, I don't know anything about real estate license and brokers. I said, just do it, you dummy. I'm going to hire you. And when I hired him, I lost $10,000 on the first deal, but I was okay with that because in order for people to see something that they've never been through, you got to invest in them and give them second chances. So he was able to work on $1 million deal. He made a 3% commission, $30,000. That money he used to buy a house for him, his wife, and his 5 children, and move out of Philadelphia into the suburbs. And now that house has appreciated in value. But not only that, he's able to work with me. He was able to get another commission, and then he's able to gift his in-laws $8,000, $10,000, or what have you. Then they're able to go out and buy a house in Philadelphia. They're no longer renters. Now they own a duplex and they're landlords. So this is transforming their lives today, not 50 years from now. Or I'm able to use my LLCs and give my family members ownership so they could be part owners of the business and they don't have to contribute any cash. So what you're doing is you're creating your own table and you're transforming people's lives. Or my business partner, Jody, I worked with him in 2018. He had 0 doors. Now he has about 60 something doors. And he's also wasn't a millionaire. Now he's a millionaire. Because what I'm trying to do or put forth a concerted effort to do is transform the lives of people around me. So I think that is my purpose, to inspire, to change the way we think about our own lives, think more in terms of building out strong communities, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, all those things.
Awesome. I love it. So how can people find you?
So people can find me at KJ Consulting, KAYJ on IG, and on our website at www.kjconsulting.net, NET. Those are the 2 best ways to reach me.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining, and thank you everyone for tuning in.